Around 2 years ago, I bought this camera, the Ricoh GRIIX, and to be honest with you, I didn't give it a fair shot. I've used it for a day or two. I remember not liking the camera. I remember thinking, well, what's the point of this if I've got a Fuji X100? Because I was so deep in the Fujifilm world, I didn't even look at other brands. Fast forward to today, I don't really use Fujifilm anymore. I've been using a bunch of different brands, and since I've matured as a photographer, my views are different and my editing is different, I figured let me try this camera again because I have a feeling that I was wrong about it, and that's correct, I was very wrong about it. I've been using it now for about a month and many opinions have changed, almost all of them, and in this video I will share with you my honest initial thoughts on the Ricoh GRIIX, what I think of it as a camera, the images, how does it fit into my bigger workflow, and we'll be doing it right here, as in not this room, but out there in New York. Let's get the most obvious positive out of the way. It's the size. I can safely say it's the first truly pocketable camera that I've owned. A Fuji X100 does come close, however by the time you add the lens filter and all that kind of stuff, it is still quite bulky. Even though that will fit in a coat pocket, you have no chance with a pair of shorts. This can fit into your pair of shorts, a pair of jeans, a hoodie, you name it. And for that reason alone, this can come with you everywhere you go. As a matter of fact, this is part of my daily carry. Even if I go to the post office, this camera is coming with me because anytime I go somewhere, if I see a shot, I can get it. Now, of course, you can use your iPhone, but you know, it's not the same, is it? It's not the same as this. So the size and the weight is a huge advantage. The next thing that I really like is the performance. This camera is very fast. It switches on instantly and reliably. So if you take a Hasselblad or a Leica, if you switch those cameras on, you might be waiting 6 seconds, you might be waiting 3 seconds, and you sometimes might even wait longer or shorter, you just don't know. This switches on instantly and every single time. You can switch it off, switch it on, switch it off, switch it on. It's like clockwork, it works. What that means is it's very reliable in terms of if I see something over there and the camera is switched off, I know when I press this button here, it switches on straight away and I'm not waiting or guessing how long it might take for it to boot up. The performance can be extended to the menus, the screen, and just how you interact with the camera. It feels fluid, it feels fast, the screen feels like it could be from a smartphone. And even if you take a bunch of burst photos, it records them to the card straight away. Now granted, at 26, 24, whatever megapixels this is, it's not going to be the biggest file in the world, but still, you're not standing around waiting for the files to write to the card. Every single interaction with this camera is efficient, is fast, and in my opinion, makes the user experience so much more fun and enjoyable. Snap focus wasn't something that I was even aware of before getting this camera. However, now I am not sure why other brands are not implementing this feature because it's great. You literally set a particular distance. So I've set it to infinity. And then when you press a button, which I've set to the FN button, it automatically focuses to that specific distance. So as soon as I press this FN button, the camera focuses on infinity. And then I can proceed to compose and take photos without worrying about the autofocus system getting in the way or getting confused with foreground subjects. If you do street photography, you can use this as a zone focusing method. So you can set it to focus, let's say 3 meters ahead to whatever you want. And when you press it, it's focused right there. And this is probably one of the biggest compliments that I've heard other people make about this camera. It's honestly a feature that I am using every single time that I go out. And I kind of, well, really wish the A7R that I'm filming this on also had that. The overall UI, menus, how you interact with the camera is really nice. I love the custom U1, U2, U3 buttons on the top. I like the fact you can set an entirely different camera configuration to those, and it's a very quick way to switch between what you want the camera to do. So for example, I've got U1 set to nighttime photography, U2 set to daytime photography, and U3 is set to slow shutter. So you're in shutter priority at 1/30th, and you can do that slow shutter drag as well. And in order to accomplish that on a day like this, where it's very bright, it has got an ND filter built in, which is very nice. You press one button, the ND kicks in, and you can shoot wide open in harsh or very bright light. Macro mode is also another feature that I didn't think I would personally use. However, now I've been using it almost every time I use the camera, and it's great. I mean, there's nothing much to it. It's a mode that allows you to take close-up photos and get much closer detail of whatever it is you're taking photos of. Now, if you're traveling and you want to take photos of food or close-up details of flowers or textures or whatever it is, this mode is great for that. The image quality is very good, and not just good considering the size of the camera, but good full stop. The images that come out of this are very nice, they're very easy to edit, they have plenty of dynamic range. Of course, you're not going to get the dynamic range of a full frame sensor in this, but you're still getting a very good image. I would compare it to my Fuji files, with the only exception I would say that this camera produces slightly sharper photos than the Fuji, but in a more kind of digital way that you have to slightly undo if it's not your cup of tea. However, once you know how to edit that and get rid of that digital look, the images look very nice, the colors are good, and there really isn't much to say about it. I mean, you've seen the photos so far that I've been sharing, and they all look pretty good. And the last positive is the camera is very fun to use. It's also quite inconspicuous, so you can walk around with it, you can take photos, no one even looks at you because this just looks like a point and shoot toy. And it's just fun to use. I enjoy using it, I enjoy picking it up, and at no point does this feel like a chore or like work, whereas something like the A7R can start to feel like work because it's a much bigger and heavier system. So if you want a fun camera, I can definitely say this is one. Now let's talk about a few neutral aspects. So these are not negative or positive because it's open to interpretation depending on you. And we'll start with the most obvious one, is that there is no viewfinder. All of the photography, all of the composition is done using the rear LCD. Now, whilst the LCD is good and you can turn up the brightness for sunny days so you can see, it's still not a viewfinder. For some people, this will be potentially a decision-making feature or lack of. However, for me, it's not really a big deal because you know what you're getting before you get it. If you want a viewfinder, you've got cameras like the Fuji XE, X100, that kind of stuff. By not having a viewfinder, it means the screen is pretty much going all the way to the edge and it keeps the camera smaller. It's not something that's affected me, but I can definitely see people who will not like that experience. Another thing that's missing is a flash. Again, for me, this is not a deal breaker. However, I do see people who would have loved a flash because they would have used this camera for taking photos of friends, events, meals out, holidays, all that kind of stuff. And in those scenarios, having a flash like on the X100 can actually be a benefit, especially if you're shooting later into the night. For me, it's not been an issue. You do get hot shoes, so you can probably get a tiny little flash for this camera. Just something to keep in mind though. The ergonomics are very subjective because it depends how big your hands are. I have kind of small to medium sized hands and it's absolutely fine. It's actually great because you get a little grip on it, which even the Leica doesn't have. And this grip makes all the difference. You can easily hold it with one hand. At no point did I feel like my hands are too big for it. even though it is quite cramped, everything kind of is where you'd want it to be or where you'd expect it. The buttons are easy to press, the dials are all easy to grip. I've not really come across any issues. However, if you have very large hands, I would imagine you'd need to add maybe like a little grip or maybe a extension or a thumb grip thing, or you'll figure it out. It is a very small camera, but I guess that's the trade-off. Another trade-off is the battery life, which is not great, but the reason it's not great is because the batteries are absolutely tiny because, well, the camera is tiny. This is not going to hold very much charge. I typically get through 2 of them in a day with modest photography. However, some people have used more. Is it annoying? No, not really. You just have to buy a couple more batteries, and since they don't take up any size, you can just throw it in your pocket and you don't have any issues. But if you only have 1 battery and you have to keep charging it in between, I could see it becoming a pain, but again, it's a trade-off. The autofocus is a little bit slow and it can struggle if there's no clear contrast. I say slow, it's obviously slower than what I'm used to, which is the Sony cameras, but that's an unfair comparison. I would put it on par with like the Fuji X100VI, thereabouts. Maybe it's a little bit slower with a bit more breathing, but again, it's a tiny compact lens, so what do you expect? For most scenarios though, I've not had any issues. Maybe 10 to 20 times this month I've had an issue where the autofocus prevented me from getting the shot because I was just hunting around. But shooting on a bright sunny day with a lot of contrast, you will not get any problems with this at all. For most photographers, to be honest, for what this camera is designed for, you're not going to get any issues. Of course, if you want to start tracking things, if you're shooting sports or wildlife or that kind of stuff, then maybe there's a better tool out there. But for point and shoot capability, it's fine. And the last thing to cover is the build quality. Overall it's fine. It's got a metal body with this kind of textured coating, which gives it a bit more grip. That's quite nice. The buttons and dials are all a bit plasticky, but it's to be expected. However, they don't feel cheap or anything like that. What does feel cheap is this front assembly with the lens and this ring that comes off. This feels quite plasticky and rattly, so that maybe could have been done a bit better. But if you ignore that, the rest of the camera feels quite premium, and overall it's a very kind of premium and high quality package, I would say. So yeah, I'm definitely impressed with that. Now let's talk about some negatives, and we'll start with the lack of weather sealing. There's no weather sealing on this at all. As a matter of fact, it pulls dust in. So when you switch the camera on, you'll get a bunch of dust around there. And when you switch it off, it all gets kind of sucked inside. I've not had the camera for long enough for it to cause any serious issues. However, other people have commented that this resulted in dust accumulating inside the camera, going on a sensor or behind the lens, and it's requiring like a rebuild or something. I don't know. This ring comes off, and I suspect you can add like a little accessory which covers this whole area, which in theory should fix that problem, but it's just making this camera bigger, which defeats the whole point of this. The rest of the camera is not weather sealed. Now, from an engineering perspective, I can see they've probably done it for heat management issues, but then for a camera that's always with you, it would have been nice to have at least some degree of weather protection. I'm not sure how much this has. I've not used it in the rain, so I can't really comment how well it lasts, but I probably would avoid. I'd like to take a moment and thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. It's never been easier to start your own business, blog or YouTube channel and turn your hobby into an income. Squarespace offers the perfect all-in-one solution that is designed to take the headache and hassle out of the entire process. First and foremost, this is your website where you can showcase your product or service in a clean and professional way. Secondly, this is your online store where you can sell your products and services with powerful tools built in. Thirdly, this is your blog where you can write about your industry, therefore increase Google ranking. And there are many other built-in tools that allow you to create members areas, send newsletters, schedule appointments, and much more. Finally, this is all available on your laptop or in your pocket. Add powerful analytics and you have an ideal all-in-one package to run your business. For a free trial followed by 10% off your first purchase, please use the link in the description or use code RomanFox when you check out. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring and thank you for watching. Alright, so let's summarize. Overall, I am very happy with this camera. I'm glad I picked it up again and this will be coming with me everywhere I go, whether it's down to the post office or whether it's on a 3-month trip. This will be in my pocket or somewhere in my bag. I'll be using it for snapshots, I'll be using it for travel, just anything, but specifically it'll be for times when I don't want to bring this big unit on a day out and I just want to throw this in the pocket and go out to shoot. So yeah, overall very happy with this. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, please write them down below. If you have your own thoughts and opinions on this, maybe you've had this camera for a long time and you have some longer term user perspectives to share, please also share them down in the comments below. And yeah, that's it. So today's my last day in New York. I'm going back to London now and I'm probably gonna rest for a bit because it's been a bit too hectic. But this is I've said this last year, but I'm gonna say it this year again. This is the final year of this crazy travel because it's unsustainable. But that's maybe that's another video or a blog. I don't know. Anyway, thank you and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.